the New Testament and deal with the words of the Master. This week's words of the Master deal with the last visit to Nazareth. The last time that, the last reported time that we see Yeshua going to Nazareth. And so that is Matthew 13, 54 through 58, and also Mark 6, 1 through 6. Matthew 13, 54 through 58, and Mark 6, 1 through 6. I want to just read through both of those. It's short. There's slight differences, but the differences that are there help us to understand fully everything that's going on. So if we could first read Matthew, and then we'll just jump right over to Mark, and then talk about the whole thing.
All right, Matthew 13, 54. And when he had come to his own country, he taught them in their congregation, so that they were astonished and said, Where did this one get this wisdom and miracles? Is this not the son of the carpenter? Is not his mother called Miriam? And his brothers Jacob and Joseph and Simon and Yehuda? And his sisters, are they not all with us? Where then did this one get all this? And they stumbled at him. But Yeshua said to them, a prophet is not unappreciated except in his own country and in his own house. And he did not do many miracles there because of their unbelief. All right, go to Mark 6.
Mark 6, 1 through 6.
Mark 6 and 1. And he went away from there and came to his own country, and his taught ones followed him. And the Sabbath having come, he began to teach in the congregation, and many who heard him were astonished, saying, Where did he get all this? And what wisdom is this which is given to him, that such miracles are done through his hands? Is this not the carpenter, the son of Miriam, the brother of Jacob and Joseph and Yehuda and Shimon? And are not his sisters here with us? And they stumbled in him. And Yeshua said to them, a prophet is not unappreciated except in his own country and among his own relatives and in his own house. And he was unable to do any miracle there, except he laid his hands on a few sick ones and healed them. And he marveled because of their unbelief. And he was going around among the villages teaching.
Okay, very good. So, here we see Yeshua going along, and go up, put that map up real quick there. We're gonna want to look at this. Oh, all you gotta do is look at the. It should be already in the queue. See it?
Yep.
I gotta put that up there.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, so it starts off talking about Yeshua going to his own country. His own country. And so it's speaking about, of course, Nazareth. And so, interesting question that came about before we got started here. Where was he from? Well, he was born in Bethlehem. Go down to Judea. Go down to Judea. Let me just see that. You got to scroll down to Judea. Now you can see where Bethlehem is, right? That's who he was born, right? Now, me, myself, I was born in Grand Forks, North Dakota. But if somebody tells me asks me where I'm from, I don't say North Dakota. I don't say Grand Forks. I don't say Denver. Actually, it wasn't actually Denver. It was Colorado. It was near Denver. I don't say North Carolina. I don't say Germany, even though I was in all those places. I was born in North Dakota, but I don't say that. Somebody say where I'm from, I say from Pittsburgh. From Pittsburgh. You know what I'm saying? Bell Hoover. That's where I'm from. Right? And so, yes, Yeshua was born down in Judea, in Bethlehem. That's where he came out. That's where he broke the matrix at, down there. But he grew up way up there in Galilee. Here, go back up to Galilee there. You can make that big again, just so we can see. He grew up in Nazareth. Nazareth, which is in Galilee. It's interesting. Look where that's at there. It's in Nazareth is in an interesting place. Galilee was a place that was, Galilee as a whole now, was a place as a whole that was not necessarily infiltrated by Gentiles, but it was infiltrated by Gentile influence, right? It's Galilee of the Gentiles. All of those people was Israelites, but it had a lot of influence from these other nations. And so when you see situations where you have people looking at Yeshua and his cohorts, and they're from Galilee, I mean, it's, those aren't religious people. Those aren't knowledgeable people. Actually, and then when you even think about Nazareth itself, Nazareth, when you look from a, what's it called when they find artifacts and stuff? Anthropology? Is it anthropology?
Archaeology.
Archaeology?
It's archaeology.
Well, it's both actually. When you look at the archaeology and the anthropology of that area, it wasn't really a populated area. When you think about like from the Assyrian captivity, when the Assyrians came and they took the northern tribes, when they came and took, that place stayed kind of unoccupied. It's kind of like if you think about like sprawling areas, if they had sprawling back in these days, where you had this place, for a long time it just was nothing, and then over time, kind of, I think I saw kind of in the like after the Maccabean time is when people started kind of occupying that area. But before that, it kind of was just like the countryside. And so it's like it's a newer kind of a place in terms of that area, right? And so, because of course, again, it lay dormant from all of those years after it was ransacked and taken over by, from the Assyrian captivity. And so it was the country. It was the country, right? It was a place that, but it was the place where Yeshua grew up. It was a place where he learned, right? When he went and he had his schooling, whatever schooling that was, that's where it was, right? And so when you think about, I want to go over to, let's go over to John. Let's look at John 1:45 and 46. Because people from Galilee didn't even think good about Galilee.
John 1:45. Philip found Nathanael and said to him, "We have found him whom Moshe wrote in the Torah and the prophets, Yeshua of Nazareth, the son of Joseph." And Nathanael said to him, "Is it possible for any good matter to come out of Nazareth?" Philip said to him, "Come and see."
Okay, very good. So you got these people they from there. And they don't even think that nothing even good could come out of Galilee. And so, for whatever reason, but one thing that you can't do, because when you think about Galilee, which is the place where Yeshua grew up, because when you look at what happened with Yeshua, right? Here, put the map back up there. Yeshua grows up in Galilee. Here, let's get the map up there so we can see that real quick, because a little bit of delay. I can't tell when you do it or not. Okay, very good. So when you look at where Galilee is and where Nazareth is, here, zoom in on that a little bit. Make that a little bit bigger. And look where Canaan is. Canaan means C-A-N-A is. Because that's the place where he did the first miracle at. That's where the wedding was, where he turned the water into wine. And look at the proximity between Nazareth and Canaan. You see, he done went away from where he was from already at that point. And that's where he begins, and he goes from there, and he makes it up to Capernaum, which is a little bit up further from that. And so he's from Nazareth, but Capernaum at this point of his life is kind of like that's where he operates out of there.
That's his headquarters.
That's basically where the headquarters is, right? And so I'm saying that just to say, in Capernaum, them people chase him all over the place, right? You're right. He's a superstar. He shows up, and everybody knows that he showed up, and they're coming in droves to come to see where he's at. But it's still Galilee, though, is the point. So it's not just to say that, Galilee being this place that's so influenced by kind of the Gentile philosophies and things, but so is Capernaum. But Capernaum is a place where they see, he's not from there, he shows up there. But I'm saying that their life is not that much different than the people from Nazareth, and they're able to look at Yeshua and understand that, the things that he's doing, is making him be who he says that he is. Now, you do have the non-believers. You do have the people who are there, and the only reason that they're there is for the show. But there's obviously a big difference between what goes on in Capernaum or any other place for that matter, and what we see in Nazareth, in his hometown. Okay? And so even though we think about the fact that you have, you could go back to the scriptures. We want to look at a couple of things. Even though we have this idea of Galilee as a whole being this place that's kind of infiltrated by, these outside influences, we can't use that necessarily as an excuse to look at Nazareth, because Nazareth is just like these other places, but these other places, Yeshua really is performing these awesome miracles, and people are following him and believing in him. And also, you see that when he goes there, it says that he taught them in their congregation. They have, whether it be a synagogue or, it's probably a synagogue. When we think about the kind of home groups, that's kind of something that kind of sprawls out of the movement that Yeshua actually creates. And so they had kind of in the towns, they had a place where they would go and have the Torah be read and expounded upon. The interesting thing to note, first of all, is that some of these places, they would have these, renowned teachers there, who was like an official guy who would be the one who would do the expounding. But also, they have places where if you were kind of just like an able guy, you could actually be the one to do it. Maybe not like an official one, but just somebody who was able. And it might not have always been the same guy, which gives you an idea of how Yeshua, who being this person who kind of, they're looking at him like, how's he have all this wisdom and doing all these miracles? Like, the way that they speak about him is interesting, that he was even able to speak in the first place. In fact, when you think about the fact that when he, this is not the first time that he's here, it's the last time, but, when he gets up and speaks and reads the particular portion or what have you, he's able to do it. Because that's kind of something that they kind of did. So it's not like he had to kind of be anybody, quote unquote, in order to go and teach. And we see kind of how they're acting about it when he actually did go and teach. They're amazed, first of all, at the teaching. It's interesting, if we look at verse 54, it says that I guess in Matthew 13, 54, and also Luke 2, they kind of say the same thing, astonished. But let's look at Mark 13 and pull up that word there, astonished.
Oh, you mean Matthew?
I meant Matthew. That word there is Greek 1605, which means that they were amazed. They were astonished. They were stricken with astonishment. The word is similar to being knocked out. Like if somebody knocks you out. I don't know if anybody in here been knocked out before.
Well, I fainted before.
You fainted before?
I fainted in front of you.
I think, yeah, but I'm trying to think if it's the same thing, because there's the idea of being stricken involved in it. Nobody hit you and you knocked out. You kind of fainted. I'm saying this idea is the idea of being stricken with astonishment is kind of the same as being knocked out, like something hitting you and you have been concussed. Right? Your brain, your brain's kind of in a juice bubble inside of your brain. When that thing shakes up, you lose consciousness. And so this word here, astonishment, to be stricken with astonishment, the way they're using it is not even in a good sense. Like somebody could be astonished about something, like you surprise them, and it'd be a good thing, but this is not a good thing in their minds. Good.
I think about I think I know where you're going to go, but I think about the sprinkling of cold water on you.
I wasn't going to go there, but that would be an example of being like astonished, and it's like a jarring kind of a thing. Like I did have a sprinkling thing that I talked about before, but I have a new one now from Dominican Republic. That cold water is astonishing. When you get that cold water in this cold shower. But the astonishment that they experienced there was bad for them, right? They were astonished, but they were astonished in a bad way. They acknowledged the wisdom, but they was like, where did he get it from? They acknowledged the miracles that he did, but they was like, how's he doing this? And so it's interesting when you look at these people, when it talks about their astonishment, and they were actually offended. They were offended by these things that the Most High was that Yeshua was doing. In verse 57, Matthew 13 and 57, it said they stumbled at him as a result of all of these things. And so when we look at the reaction that these people are having to Yeshua and the things that he's doing, these people were so carnal. These people were so carnal. And again, we can't necessarily look at the Gentile influence of Galilee as a whole, because again, Yeshua is doing all kinds of things in Galilee. But these people specifically who know of Yeshua in the flesh are not able to see past the flesh. They're so carnal. And so I want to look at something in Romans. Let's go over to Romans. Because it's interesting to look at Yeshua where it seems as if he's just not able to do anything. Which seems strange. It seems like Yeshua would be able to do anything. But the way it looks like he's just not able to do anything. And so keeping that in mind, let's go to Romans 8. Let's go to Romans 8 and let's look at Romans 1 through 8. I want to look at that because I want to talk about these carnal people. These people are obviously carnal. I don't want to talk about them, but I want to see what Paul talks about when he talks about these carnal people in general.
Yeah.
1 through 8, right?
Yes.
Romans 8:1. There is then now no condemnation to those who are in Messiah Yeshua, who do not walk according to the flesh, but according to the Spirit. For the Torah of the Spirit of the life in Messiah Yeshua has set me free the Torah of sin and of death.
Hold on, let's stop right there because when we start in the first verse here, all of this that is about to be talked about is for those who are in Messiah. Those who are in Messiah, Yeshua, and then when you look at the sentence, there's like a comma right there, but you could probably put an equal sign right there too. And so when you're in Messiah, those are the people who do not walk according to the flesh, but according to the Spirit. So if you're going to turn this into like a math problem, you could say there's no condemnation for those who are in Messiah, and that's equal to those who do not walk according to the flesh, but according to the Spirit. So if I want to know what it is to be in Messiah, it is walking not according to the flesh, but according to the Spirit. And then now it's about to go into now telling me more about what it is to be in the flesh and what it is to be in the Spirit. What did you read to? Read to again.
It says, for the Torah of the Spirit of the life in Messiah Yeshua has set me free from the Torah of sin and of death.
Oh, okay. So the law of the Spirit of the life in Messiah. So there's this thing that got to do with being in Messiah. That reality of being in Messiah has set me free from something. The thing that has set me free from is the law of sin and of death. Now, this is very interesting because, you know, when you think about people, when they talk about these verses and being free from the law, you know, you got to know what is being talked about over here, right? And so when we think about what life in the Spirit causes me to be free from, it causes me to be free from the penalty of sin. And it causes me to be free from the law that's in my body that tells me that I can't do anything but sin. Because I got to do whatever my flesh tells me to do. You know, it's interesting, parents, specifically parents that are believers in the Bible and Yeshua. You know, we parents are able to really understand what Paul's talking about when he talks about this idea of the law of sin that's in my body, like the flesh, like the idea of living your life according to your carnal desires. Why, you might say? Because we have these little carnal kids that their whole life, all they want to do is feed their flesh and their carnal appetites. I want to do this. Mommy, can I do this? Mommy, can I do this? Mommy, can I do that? Can I do this? Can I? Can I? Can I?
And you say no,
Can I?
and they say yes, thank you.
Yes, but yeah, you said no, but like their whole life is driven by their desires,
They want.
what I want to do. And there's nothing wrong with that because that's how you was created. You was created to do that. You was created to want things and desire to have the thing. Now, you can't always have the thing now. But because you're a human being, you want things. And you're driven. Your life is literally governed by these desires. And then we got to come along and say, there needs to be some structure to this thing. You can't always get what you want. You know, sometimes you can't have that. Sometimes you need this.
Yosef says, but if you cry sometimes.
Yeah.
He said if you cry, you know.
Yeah, he's messing the words to the song. But the idea is that we're able to understand better when we see this thing in action, because we forget about our former life. You know, it was so long ago. You know, you can't remember when all you wanted to do is just give me this, give me that. You know, we're reminded by our wonderful treasures that the Most High has blessed us with. But when we think about life in Messiah, it's a different life. It's a life that's not governed by our carnal desires. It's a life that's governed by being in Messiah and the things that He would have for us to be doing. And so we see that Yeshua, Messiah, set us free from this thing that governs us. That's what He set us free from. Okay, verse 3.
For the Torah being powerless, in that it was weak through the flesh, Elohim having sent his own Son in the likeness of flesh of sin, and concerning sin, condemned sin in the flesh.
Okay, very good. So, Yeshua, we see that because of the fact that the law, it says right here, the Torah, it was powerless in that it was weak through the flesh. The Torah needed for the individual to be able to do the thing in order for it to be powerful. Like the Most High gave the Torah to His people. He said, this is the things that I like. If you do these things, we're good with one another. The problem is that it in and of itself didn't help us not desire those things. Like you can know what it is that you're supposed to be doing, but the thing that's lacking is your actual ability to desire to do those things. And so when it talks about the idea of the law, the Torah being powerless, it didn't cause you to be righteous. It just told you what righteousness looked like. But it depended on the individual in order to actually be righteous. Like He said what you're supposed to do, but it can't make you do it. Which, by the way, that's what the new covenant is. The Spirit in you causing you to do the commandments. Right? And so He sees this, and then He sends His Son to fix the problem. That is in the flesh. Okay, verse 4.
So that the righteousness of the Torah should be completed in us who do not walk according to the flesh, but according to the Spirit. Okay, so you have now, I can't be righteous without some extra empowerment by the Spirit of holiness. And so the Most High allows for Yeshua to come, live, die, raise from the dead, go back to the Father, and send back the Holy Spirit so that we're able to be empowered by the Spirit to live a life of righteousness. And so now, through the Ruach HaKodesh, we're able to live a life of righteousness. We're made righteous by what it is that Yeshua did for us, and we're able to walk in righteousness. And so we're talking about all this because those people over there, they were operating in carnality. They were seeing things that was righteous. They were seeing wisdom manifest. But it didn't matter that they saw it.
they wasn't able to accept it. Why? Because they were thinking about it through their carnal minds. But we learn about that if we keep on reading. Read verse 5 there.
For those who live according to the flesh set their minds on the matters of the flesh, but those who live according to the Spirit, the matters of the Spirit.
Okay, very good. So if you live according to the flesh, then your mind is set to the things that are according to the flesh. And so when we think about carnality, and again, this idea of being governed by your carnal appetites, we're talking about people who walk in the flesh. Their conversation is continually about carnal things, right? Their thoughts and ideas are all about carnality. This is someone whose mind is according to the matters of the flesh. Like your every concern is about carnality. And then there are those who live according to the Spirit. And so look at keep on reading there, because there's an interesting thing that he says here.
For the mind is of the flesh. Let me read it again. For the mind of the flesh is dead, but the mind of the Spirit is life and peace.
Keep on going.
Because the mind of the flesh is enmity towards Elohim, for it does not subject itself to the Torah of Elohim, neither indeed is it able.
It's not even able to do it, though.
Nope.
That's the thing. And so the flesh is an enemy of Elohim, first of all. It's not subject, it won't subject itself to the Torah of Elohim. Neither indeed is it able to do it. And so when you're living a life in carnality, it don't matter if you see what's right. It don't necessarily compel you to do it just because you see that it's right. Because there's other things that I could do. I don't got to do it that way. Because I'm thinking about it from a carnal perspective. You know, we think about, in the life of ministry, the idea of trying to help people and show people the way to go. I just want to say, a thing that is helpful for those in ministry to understand is that beyond someone having their heart be changed and transformed, I can't put no real expectations on someone who hasn't had a spiritual heart transplant. Because it says right here that if your mind is of the flesh, that mind is not subject to the Torah, neither can it be. I can't expect for you to do the things that I would necessarily think are, I would think it's just bare minimum things that someone should understand in terms of holiness or righteousness. If you're a person who hasn't had your heart changed. Because it seems like it's an easy kind of a, no-brainer, so to speak, for someone who's been transformed. But an unregenerated individual who's not, who hasn't been indwelt by the Ruach HaKodesh, the things that one might think is the simplest things to that person is literally impossible. Without the Spirit. And so it's interesting when you think about the contracts of thinking back to Yeshua over there in Nazareth, who they have this extra added kind of thing that's going on with them in terms of their knowledge of who the man Yeshua is. These other people, they're just like the people in Nazareth, but the difference is that they just found out about this guy. They don't have this other filter in their mind to think about the fact that, wait, I know his mom and daddy. How's he the Messiah? And I remember when he used to sit up here and be acting up in the lunch line at school. I don't know if they had a lunch line at school. But I'm saying he knows his mama, his daddy, his brothers, his sisters, all of the things, his cousins. Right? They have this extra thing to think about that is hindering their ability to kind of be focused on what he's actually doing. Because again, we think about what Yeshua was doing over there, it said that they wondered, they were astonished, and they understood that what he was saying at the congregation was wisdom. Because they said, where did he get the wisdom from? They knew it was wisdom. But where did he get it from though? How's he the one sitting over here doing this? Because they said, it's interesting when you look and see in Matthew, it says, is he not the son of the carpenter? Again, they know his daddy. But in Mark, it says, is this not the carpenter? Like he was a carpenter. His daddy wasn't just a carpenter, but he himself was a carpenter. They probably got a dining room table that Yeshua made at the crib. And so how's he? They was the ones that was sitting under the feet of the renowned rabbi, and Yeshua wasn't there next to him while they was there. And so how's this guy who didn't ever go to the place and didn't ever learn all of the secrets? How's he the one that's revealing all the secrets? And I was at the school and I didn't see him there. They got all of these extra added things that they're able to add to their thought process that blocks them from being able to actually deal with the reality of the situation. It's causing them to have this block where they're not able to not be carnally minded. Mm-hmm. Let's look over to, we're coming back to Matthew and Yeshua and Nazareth, but I want to talk more about what we think about what carnally minded is, but let's talk about spiritually minded. Let's look at Philippians 4:5-8.
Philippians chapter 4, verse 5. Let your gentleness be known to all men. The master is near. Do not worry at all, but in every matter, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to Elohim.
Okay, so when you now this guy here, this person here that's being spoken of, this is someone who is manifesting the character of Elohim. This is somebody who's walking in this mind of the Spirit when they're letting their, what's that say in the King James? This scripture says, let your gentleness be known to all men. What's that say in
Let your moderation be known. Your moderation be known.
And so, gentleness or moderation or modesty, let your manifestation of the character of the Most High be known to all men. Let the spirit that's in you let the spirit that's in you come out and be known to all men, because the master's near. Right? Do not worry at all, but in every matter by prayer and petition and thanksgiving. These is all things that you will be doing if you're not worried about these things and troubles and things that are happening. They're not causing you to be worried or anxious or scared about things, because you know from which your proverbial bread is buttered. Right? And so you're at peace with Elohim. Read 7 and 8. Dude.
And the peace of Elohim, which surpasses all understanding, shall guard your hearts and minds through Messiah Yeshua.
Okay, because of your relationship with Yeshua HaMashiach, because of the fact that the spirit of holiness dwells on the inside of you, you have the peace of Elohim when you're in a situation which don't call for peace. That's peace that surpasses all understanding. Like if you're in a peaceful situation, so what if you're at peace? The situation is peaceful. But when you're at peace in a situation that don't call for peace, and your heart and mind is able to be guarded in a situation when all things around you are attacking you, when it was seen that these things would actually be harming, hurting, dismaying you, you are manifesting the character of the Most High. And so this is an example of somebody walking in the Spirit. Okay, read verse 8 right there.
For the rest, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is righteous, whatever is clean, whatever is lovely, whatever is of good report, if there is any uprightness, and if there is any praise, think on these.
Think on these. This is where your mind should be. Your mind isn't on carnality. Your mind isn't on, oh, what do this sound like? Oh, what do this look like? Oh, what do this taste like? Oh, what do this feel like? It's not all about carnality. It's not about what these things is able to make you feel like. It's about those things which are true. It's on those things which are noble. It's on those things which are righteous and clean and lovely. These are all things that point us towards the character of the Most High.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that's true. All the stuff that we see out here going on, that stuff ain't even true, man. I don't know what that is. That's some image. That's something that they're telling us. I don't believe it. I don't believe none of it. I believe the Most High though. I believe His character. I believe all the things that He came to do for me and said that He was going to do. I can believe that those things are true. Those things are noble. Those things are clean. Those things are lovely and of good report. Those things are praiseworthy. And so all of those things are things that I would be worrying about, thinking about, if my mind is on the spirit. And if I'm being spiritually minded, when I see things that remind me of the Most High, I can only attribute those things to the Most High. And so if I'm carnally minded and I'm having a physical experience, let's say, there's some adversity going on in life, in the world, against me, and I'm spiritually minded, I'm not looking at that thing that's coming towards me that's trying to kill me. I'm looking at what is it that the Most High is trying to show me right here? What do I need to be learning right here? It don't really got nothing to do with this situation, this thing that's happening to me. It really got to do with what's the Most High trying to show me. If I'm carnally minded, I'm like, what's going on? Like, what is this thing? Why is this always happening to me? Right? But if I'm spiritually minded, what is it that the Most High wants for me to learn? What happens when I get on the other side? Because I'm going to get on the other side of this thing. What's going to happen when I get on the other side of it? What am I supposed to learn from this thing? That's being spiritually minded. And so when we go back to these people over here in Nazareth, when Yeshua came and was speaking to them and was giving them this wisdom and performing these miracles, they wasn't supposed to be sitting up there talking about like, how's he doing this? They were supposed to be believing in him just like all the other people believed in him. But instead, they were offended by wisdom. Wisdom is offensive to you if your life is a life of carnality.
Yeah, if you don't have wisdom, it offends you. You know?
It's offensive. Which doesn't seem to make any sense. Like, how can I be, to me, I'm going to say, how can wisdom be offensive? But it's offensive, I guess, in my ignorance. I guess it is offensive.
I got one real quick. James, let's get James 1 and 6. So it says, is that right? 1 and 5, my bad. One up. 1 and 5. It says, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of Elohim, who gives to all generously and without reproach, and it shall be given to him. So none of them considered that Elohim, the Most High himself, gave his son that wisdom. Yeah. He can give it to anybody.
Yeah, and he's the giver of wisdom.
Right.
Like, why would you come with this wisdom and instead of dealing with the wisdom, I'm saying, how you find out about that wisdom? Like, I should be one to benefit from the wisdom. But instead, I'm like, who told you about that? I ain't never seen you go to no seminary school. How you supposed to know about all of these deep things? That's me and my carnal mind thinking negatively about the whole situation. Instead of, if you got something that's obviously coming from the Most High, why ain't I trying to figure out how I can not get what you got, but benefit from what you're giving?
Yep. And people don't consider that. That's what the Most High showed me. I'm like, look, a child can have more wisdom in certain areas than I got, and it could be natural. And vice versa, different people, even non-believers, they got certain wisdom in certain things. I'm like, okay, I'll listen to you in this area because you clearly got that wisdom. And
about that.
Yeah, about that. Not saying overall, but when you do that, and you can, the thing is to be able to perceive it though. You're like, oh, okay, I know not to follow this person spiritually, but they know about this, and so I'm gonna listen to you about this.
Right.
And
Which
so-
in and of itself is wisdom.
That's wisdom too. Exactly. That's being spiritual.
But the problem is that when we think about the idea of the wisdom that the Most High is speaking of and discernment that he speaks of, it's necessary for us to be able to be attached to the author of wisdom so that we're able to discern these different things. Like we can't necessarily point someone to someone else who has, or like say for instance, if I say, Buddha, man, he be saying some things. If you want to learn how to be, you could just look at Buddha because he talked about things.
Yeah, he did.
Or Confucius.
Yep.
If you
did.
don't have a foundation in the true author of wisdom, you can't go to these other places where the right application of knowledge is presented and not veer off path.
Yeah.
You gonna veer off path if you don't have a foundation in the author of wisdom. When you see it other places, you're not going to be able to rightly discern things, and it's going to have you jammed up.
That's how people get jammed up.
Yeah,
They
and
start following philosophers and stuff.
yeah. I mean, that's just what it is. And so, at the end of the day, it's always ends up as being this idea of being carnally minded and spiritually minded. Even if you think about these idea of these quote unquote good things coming from these other avenues, those things are still carnal, I'm saying, because they're not connected to the true foundation. And so until we get truly connected to the creator and sustainer of all things, we're not able to properly understand anything. I'm saying. You're never going to bring everything back to the place where it should be at if you've never came back to the Most High.
Another point in that verse too I wanted to point out was it says, if you lack, any who lack wisdom, let him ask. See, a lot of people they don't even ask. People want the spirit guidance direction, but you don't ask. You got to come to him. That's the thing. He presented to everybody. Everybody can go, but if you don't ask, how you gonna get it?
Yeah.
It's the Father. We call him the Father. You got a Father. You don't ask him for nothing. You gonna get what you get. Just whatever he give you. But if you got something you in need for, or in this case wisdom, you gotta ask.
What's about going
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we look at these people are obviously a faithless people, right? When we go back to Matthew 13 and 58, he did not do many miracles there because of their unbelief, because of the fact that they didn't have faith. Without faith, it's impossible to please Elohim. What's that whole verse say? What's that whole verse say in Hebrews, is that 13 or 11? Is it 11 and 6? What's Hebrews 11 and 6?
Hebrews 11 and 6. But without belief it is impossible to please him. For he who comes to Elohim has to believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who earnestly seek him.
You got to believe all of that stuff.
Yep.
You got to believe that he is, and that he's a rewarder of those that diligently seek him.
That's for real. That's a fact.
Hey, you think I'd be able to get something in the journey? And then not just the end of it. That's just the end of it. Maybe the person didn't even hear you the first time, but you don't ever be like, you think I could get Moshe crack. My son Moshe cracked me up sometimes because he might ask me something, and then I might act like I didn't hear what he said, and so he'd be like, like he got to clear his throat so that maybe he can say it louder or more clear. But the idea is that you want something so bad that you have to do what is necessary in order to get the thing. He said he's a rewarder. You got to not only believe that he is, but you have to also believe that he is a rewarder of those that diligently seek him. And so I'm not just sitting up here saying, well, I know what Yeshua did. I know he died for my sins and all that. I know he raised from the dead or something. Didn't he come back like on Easter or something? Like I know about all that stuff. But if you have not subscribed yourself to the subscription that he's offering to you, then it don't matter if you know that he did the things if you're not applying it to your situation. And the only way you apply it to your situation is to diligently seek him. To actually go and do the things that he's calling for you to be doing. And these people over here in Nazareth, they wasn't sure what they look like following. That's how they talking. What I look like sitting up here following after you, and you sit up here and you done made my table for me. My table. I'm out here sitting on this stool that you done made, and then I'm supposed to believe that you the Messiah.
I think present day that's considered a microaggression.
What?
When you say something, oh, you speak, talking to a black person, and they're like, oh, you speak very well.
Yeah, but it's like the part of it is like there's like a familiarity that goes along with and hinders the situation. Because I think I know something about you, and I think that I have an idea of who I think you should be, then I also know what your limitations are in my mind, which is false. And so when Yeshua says over here that a prophet is not unappreciated except in his own country or in his own house, he's not saying something that's like a Bible verse, interestingly enough. He's saying something that's just general truth.
It's a Bible verse now because he said it.
I mean,
when he said it, but
I'm saying like he's not drawing from something. He made this one up.
Right.
This is a verse that he made up. And it's okay that he made it up because it's the truth.
Yep.
It's harder for you to accept something from someone that you know their whole background than it is from somebody who you don't. And so I said that we were supposed to be remembering about the whole thing with the leper and all of that thing and the whole status change. And it's interesting that if we look at the way that the person, the one who is to be cleansed, is talked about by the time it gets to the end of the chapter, it says it so many times you forget. You can't forget what it is that he's even being cleansed from, because that's the only thing that he's being referred to as. His former self is forgotten. And so when we think about the way that these people should have been looking at Yeshua, they should have been looking at the thing that he was doing and not necessarily the things that he may have done previously as it relates to viewing him as this prophet that he actually was. Let's look over real quick before we end over here. Let's go over to Deuteronomy and look at 18, 15 through 19.
18.
Deuteronomy 18, verse 15 through 19.
Yahweh your Elohim shall rise up for you a prophet like me from your midst, from your brothers. Listen to him.
Okay, stop right there. This is interesting right here because this is somebody that you know because it's from your brothers. And so you're not supposed to look at the fact that he's my brother and he used to sit up there and try to put boogers on people. You're supposed to look at the fact that the Most High raised him up to be a prophet from your midst, and he's going to be a prophet like me. It don't matter what he did already. I'm not supposed to look at that. I'm supposed to be looking at what it is that he is called to do through the Most High. Listen to him, it says. Keep on going.
According to all you ask of Yahweh your Elohim in Horeb in the day of the assembly, saying, let me not hear again the voice of Yahweh my Elohim, nor let me see this great fire any more, lest I die. And Yahweh said to me, what they have spoken is good. I shall raise up for them a prophet like you out of the midst of their brothers, and I shall put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak to them all that I command him.
Okay, very good. So when we look at the thing that the people of Israel were supposed to be looking for, it was their brother to begin with that they were supposed to be looking for. It wasn't some guy that they were supposed to come along that they didn't ever know about or anything about him. It was supposed to be somebody from in the midst of them. All they were supposed to be doing was looking at the things that he actually had did. And so when we look at the people who did actually believe in Messiah, Yeshua, the reason why they believed in him because he proved himself by the things that he was doing. It didn't matter who he was. It didn't matter what his, what his family background was. It mattered what it was that he was doing, and that was the proof of who he was. And so these people, they was clouded by their carnal minds, and they wasn't able to see the things that were embedded in the Torah because they can't see the things that's embedded in the Torah when they're thinking about them from a carnal perspective.
I think too, it wasn't like he was going around doing wicked stuff.
No.
It was like he was, walking uprightly.
Yeah.
It's like, so why condemn somebody who, or, they show you these things?
It didn't make any sense. They were just hating.
Yeah, yeah, really hate.
They just was
Just
hating.
hating.
And it's interesting that you say that. Drop down to 20 and read 20, 21, and 22.
Okay. But the prophet who presumes to speak a word in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, or who speaks in the name of the other mighty ones, even that prophet shall die. And when you say in your heart, how do you know the word which Yahweh has not spoken? When the prophet speaks in the name of Yahweh, and the word is not or comes not, that is the word which Yahweh has not spoken. The prophet has spoken it presumptuously. Do not be afraid of him.
Okay, very good. So, like you say, he's not sitting up here walking around doing things that's contrary to the Most High. He's doing things that the Most High likes. He's walking in righteousness. He's doing all the things that should cause the people to want to follow him and not to actually want to kill him or to not listen to him. He's doing things that people should make people want to actually listen to him. And so when you think about, if we go back to Matthew, when you think about looking at these people in Nazareth, in his hometown, in the place where he grew up at, when you see that these people were, they lacked faith, they lacked the ability to be able to believe in Messiah, and then we see that it said that he did not do many miracles there because of their unbelief. And then I said, was it the fact that he couldn't do miracles there, or was it the fact that he wouldn't do miracles there? Because he said, we've seen him even say, even recently, on a few occasions, your faith has healed you. Your faith has made you whole. I guess I don't want to fully say that he couldn't do anything. He could probably do whatever it is that he wants to do. But I will say that he wouldn't do it because he's not going to. The thing about it is that the Most High, through his son Yeshua, he don't force you to be safe. He don't force you to be rescued. He may force you to look at yourself and look at your inability to rescue your own self, but he's not going to force you to actually be rescued. He might see you drowning in the water and throw you the spiritual lifesaver. What's that thing that did? The little circle thing that you. He might throw you the life preserver and throw it right next to you where all you have to do is grab it. But you got to put the thing on. You got to put the life preserver on you. Mm-hmm. You got to put that. You got to get into the vehicle of rescue that he provides, and you do that by faith. And so he presented a way out for these people that they didn't accept, and so that was it.
Yeah, that's a fact.
And he did. So I'm saying it's not because he couldn't, it's because he wouldn't. And why would he?
Yeah.
I mean, from my experience, when people don't believe, even if something good happens to them, they still don't believe. I think about the guy who had stage 4 cancer, and he never went back to the doctor, and he was alive years and years later. And then after that, it was like, remember we said, so the miracles are still real. He said, I don't believe in miracles. I don't believe that he can do the miracles. But meanwhile, he was a miracle.
Yeah,
His
walking.
He had pancreatic cancer.
A walking miracle.
He had pancreatic, he
And
literally,
the worst kind of cancer.
he had the worst kind of cancer and never went back to the doctor and was alive, dancing and carrying on.
Yeah. And so this whole thing is about faith. And we read the verse. You know, without faith, it's impossible to please him. And this situation over here in Nazareth is a perfect example. Because he did not do many miracles there. Because of their unbelief. That's all he did was go around and do miracles. But he couldn't do it there. Not because of him lacking in any way, but because of the fact that they wasn't able to look at what was clearly in front of them and accept the truth that is Messiah and receive what it was that he had to give.
Some people got it.
Yeah, it said in Matthew that, you know, he went around and he did, you know, there was a few sick people that he did heal.
In Mark.
Oh, excuse me, in Mark. There was a few sick ones that he healed, and he healed them.
What's that, Mark 6?
Mark 5.
Oh, Mark.
Mark 6, verse 5. There was a few sick ones, and he healed them. But in verse 6 of Mark, it said he marveled. It don't say many places where Yeshua marveled, but he marveled. He was amazed by their unbelief.
They was amazed at his words, and he was amazed at their unbelief.
And so lastly, I just want to say that when we think about what it is that Yeshua provides for us, and we see here is a perfect example of you know what he has come to do. And he does the thing that he has done already is self-evident. Like he has more than proven himself. He has more than provided the necessary proof of who he is, the necessary way of salvation. That way has been paved. And it's up to each and every one of us to just walk down this road that he has already paved. You know, he knocked down the trees, he cleared the path, he laid a clear and unrestricted path for us to walk down, and all we gotta do is just walk down. All we gotta do is believe that he is and diligently seek him. And that's what he was requiring of these people, and they wasn't able to do it. And when you think about, compared to these other places, like this is a huge difference compared to the things that he's usually doing. Usually people are following him and believing him. He's trying to get away from these people because they're following him so much. But these people, because of their unbelief, are, you know, he doesn't do what he usually does because of it. And so, you know, it's just proof of the things that Paul talks about, the fact that, you know, faith comes salvation comes by faith. You know, we have to have faith, be persuaded, be convinced of all that it is that Yeshua has done for us so that we're able to benefit from it. And we see that these people here, we see the opposite is true for these people. They weren't able to benefit because of their lack of faith. Okay, so does anyone have any last questions or comments about any of that? Yes.
How come if they don't pick it up? Well, what happens if they don't pick it up and they drown?
Oh, she's supposed to life raft.
Oh, that's what happens if you don't. That's what it is with that. You drown. You drown.
That's what happened.
That's what happens. That's what happened to them. Yeshua went to this place and he offered his services and they didn't accept his services, so they didn't get the services. And so that's what it is. He makes a way for us to escape this thing that we're in, the situation that we're in, our reality. He offers a change to alter to help our reality in life, and either we can accept life or we can remain in death. Yeah.
No, this was the last time. Was this the last time? Because it says the last.
Yeah, he don't go back there. He's done with them.
He removed their
And so unless the people from there go and follow him to somewhere else, he's not going back there. The tour don't stop at Nazareth no more. Yeah, go ahead, say it.
What was the houses made out of? When
I don't know. I don't know.
I do really have a question. At one point, growing up at Rochester, I was kind of like a likening spirituality to someone's IQ. Like, when people take like an IQ test, they want to measure how smart someone is, but they have found out that a lot of it is based off of experiences. Like, it depends on how many experiences one has had, what kind of, like, into how high the IQ test will be. So, like, when it comes to spirituality, does one have to go through a lot? Or go through many different situations to get to a certain level of spirituality? Or do you, will it just be given to you as,
I guess it's just like anything else. Like, say, for instance, like if you have many experiences, you could be an expert at many things. But if you don't have many experiences, you can't really be an expert at things that you've never experienced. But the thing about the body is that you don't got to be an expert at everything. All you got to do is be an expert at whatever you're expert at. And then when somebody needs that expertise, they come to you for that. And so it don't cost, you don't have to have, I'm saying that you wouldn't then necessarily have to have many experiences to have, you don't have to have an IQ like what you're saying that's high on many things. You could just be an expert at your thing. And that thing that you're expert at, and then that's where the Most High will use you at that thing. He don't need for you to be an expert in everything. He only needs for you to be an expert in your thing, whatever that thing is.
And then you talk about them trying to test people. I think the key to spirituality is realization. It's like what you're able to realize. Like the people couldn't realize certain things, what was happening before them. You can't realize it. And that goes with your perception, what you can't perceive. He talks about having ears you can't see, ears you can't hear. If you can't realize something, your spirituality will be limited. But what it's like a correlation to what you can realize and what you can't.
Well, we talked about the idea of being spiritually minded, being connected to the Ruach HaKodesh. If you're carnally minded, you can't see things from a spiritual perspective.
Right.
And so you're blind in certain matters. You're deaf in certain manners. You can't comprehend certain things because you're not looking at those things from a spiritual standpoint. You're looking at it from a carnal standpoint. So I would agree with what you're saying. There has to be a proper perspective that's had by you to be considered spiritual, and that perspective is the lens of the Ruach HaKodesh. If you're not looking at things through the lens of the Ruach HaKodesh, then you can't see it.
Yeah.
You can't realize it.
And the spirit is where everything comes from. That's what the easiest tip to remember is everything comes from the spirit. Before you see it and hear it, the spirit, and somewhere in the spirit, it came from there first, and that's what you want to look at or think about first. A little tip.
Okay, fine. It reminds me of when I can't remember where it is. Who was riding a donkey and I was traveling, and the donkey saw the angel. He didn't see anything. So the donkey stopped. Got mad at the donkey. Took the donkey. But if the donkey perceived, he would have died. Because the angel then showed himself. So, like that, for a person that's not, like you said, not willing to open their eyes to see the spiritual side of it, they're deaf and blind to it. That's not
And so it's necessary. We can see when we look at these people over here in Nazareth, we don't even have to wonder. The thing that held them back from receiving the greatest thing they ever could have received, period, is their carnal mind. And he's showing us, Yeshua shows us through this whole situation here, a lesson that in time, Paul talks about the carnal mind, however long later when he comes along. But helping us to understand the weight and, the gravity to this idea of the carnal mind and, the problem that it is. And so, we really have to know and understand that this life that we live, we serve an Elohim who is spirit, and we must worship him in spirit and in truth. It's not, this carnality is just a distraction. It's just a distraction. It's not real. It's not real. It's just a bump in the road. It's just it's something to cause us to look in the wrong direction. We need to be looking towards the Master Yeshua. Okay. So, that being said, we will be done for now. Y'all willing, we'll be back on next Shabbat to continue with our look at both the Torah and the words of Messiah. So we'll say for now, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.